hello. Oh, we got to switch the PowerPoint. Let me know, is this the right one? Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Oh my God, cheers already. Well, we are so happy to have you here this gorgeous November morning. I cannot believe truly how beautiful it is.
You arranged that, right?
Yeah, I think I put in a word with the goddess of weather. She took care of it. But we are, really, really excited mostly to see you all. Honestly, it's been, how long have we been planning it? Six months?
I think COVID years are like dog years. It's like 1 year is like 7 years, so it feels like 20 years, I think, since we've all been together. So it's great to see everybody here. Truly,
and we've had a couple of virtual events the last couple of years. I know a lot of you have joined us for those, so thank you for that. We also, actually, Dave and I are live streaming on YouTube right now for the folks who signed up for the virtual event. So hello, virtual folks as well. Feels very important to be live on YouTube. But we are so happy to have you. We have a great agenda for you today. So you all should have gotten a paper copy of it as you walked in. Make sure you check it out. Wonderful presenters that are going to share their experiences with you and hopefully give you a lot to think about and learn during the day today. Also, several wonderful members of the CampusESP team that are going to be sharing some training and knowledge with you as well. FYI, in case there are two sessions at the same time that you wanted to see, you all are also going to get access to the recordings after the event. So don't worry about that. You'll get access to those just like our virtual attendees will as well. If you're a social media person, if you're on Twitter or Instagram, we do have a hashtag. It's ESP Summit 22. So I think Jennifer already used it. We love to see that. Please share your experiences throughout the day. And we also, one thing that you kind of couldn't sign up for until yesterday is our Ask an Expert session. So members of the customer success team and our account management team are going to be available throughout the day. If you need a kind of one-on-one consult on anything, you want someone to just show you how to do something real quick in your portal, so you can sign up on those using that QR code that you see around. So those are some logistical notes. We also really want to thank our sponsors. Kind of being back in person, we knew we needed some support to make this happen, and we are very lucky to have Ardeo and Zimi here with us today to really help make this event possible. So please join me in showing your gratitude for that and meet them, learn what they do, how they help colleges and universities. They're wonderful partners to us as well as to all of their customers. So we want you all to get to know them today. And I think that might be my last slide. Anything else I was supposed to say up here?
No, I think you got it all.
Okay, well, thank you all again for being here. I'm going to let Dave take it away with the rest of our opening session.
Thanks, Leslie. Sure. All right, so there are a lot of newbies here. We did this once, I guess 3 years ago in person, and we had a total of, I think, about 18 people. There's a lot more people here in person, which is great, and also over the live stream. So one of the questions that we typically get asked is, how did CampusESP start? And I figured I'd give you the origin story as a way to kind of kick off today. And it really started over a beer. There we go. So as many of you know, I worked at Ellucian, SunGard, SCT for 14 years. When I left there, I was the Senior Vice President of Product over Banner. And I knew once I left there, I wanted to stay in student engagement and do something with banner data and student engagement. So I flew out to Abilene, Texas, which is very far from Philadelphia, and I met with this gentleman. His name's Kevin Roberts. I think he was the CIO at the time. And I was like, Kevin, what can we do with student engagement? And he kind of opened my eyes. He was like, you know what? He's like, Dave, students aren't even in the systems anymore. Their parents are. And I was like, what? I didn't even believe him. So I was like, let me take a picture of you in case this actually becomes the idea that we move forward with CampusESP. And this is the exact moment where CampusESP was born at a place called The Mill in Abilene, Texas. And then after that, for the next 2 years, there was no product. I basically just went around talking with schools to understand how involved parents and families were in post-secondary education. We did something, again, I did something called the Parent Engagement Review at about 14 schools, and if you ever see data that says data from 8,000 parents across 14 institutions, this was the original data set where we asked, like, does your students share their college self-service ID and password with you, of which 63% said yes. So it blew me away, and this really was where CampusESP started. But in order to build software, you need resources. It takes a lot of resources to get a startup started. And so in those early days, I had to look for money, honestly, is really what it comes down to. And I'm based in Philadelphia, so I went back and I looked, because I remember this one meeting. This one meeting did not go well. It was October 18th, 2015. I'm protecting the person's identity who it did not go well with, but I met with a person who was pretty much like the most important person in Philadelphia about what startups succeed and which startups fail. And I had 2 years of data with many of you out in the audience of like how involved parents are. And I remember specifically, she told me parent involvement is a fad. I definitely remember this moment because I had spent 2 years collecting all this data, and she said parent involvement is a fad. And everybody here knows parent involvement is not a fad, right? That's why we're here today, because parent expectations are growing. This is some of the latest research from RNL and CampusESP. 85% of parents, prospective families, expect weekly communication from you. This is going to be part of the kickoff that we have here with one of our guest speakers, Raquel Bermejo. And we know parent expectations are growing. You also know enrollment pressures are growing as well. These are my kids. They are twins who are juniors in high school at a recent college fair, and where there are about 400 schools all vying for their attention. And how do you differentiate yourself? You know parents are the key there. My kids look like they're smiling right there. They have no clue what's going on. They have absolutely no clue what's going on, and they rely on their parents and families to help them through the process. And then what's really crazy, and why parent engagement's not a fad, is how much our community has grown over these years. These are the number of customers using CampusESP, starting in 2015 with Tarleton State, which was our first customer, to today, where we have 265 customers, which is crazy. So thank you for all being a part of that. It's just been amazing to see. Thank you. All right, so we have gone from fad to nice to have to need to have. At this point, it really is need to have. Schools need to be thinking about their parent and their family engagement strategy. And everybody here knows parents play a role in the student life cycle. So when it comes to the student life cycle, we've been thinking at CampusESP how we play into that. And so we're introducing something we call the parent engagement life cycle, which is going to look very familiar to people in this room. First off, we know parents play a role at every single kind of stage of the student life cycle. And whether you think of that in like 6 stages or 8 stages or 20 stages, you just know there's a life cycle that a student goes through, from looking at what schools they're going to attend to enrolling to graduation. And so when we're looking at CampusESP and how we support parents and how you support parents, the first module that many of you have is family communication. And that really is focused around parents of current students. This was the first module that we rolled out. This is around focus on student retention, student success, really that admit to graduate. And then in March 2020, which I know is like a time we probably don't want to think too much about, we actually rolled out student enrollment, which is focused on parents of prospective students. And it's all one system for parents. They don't have to think about logging into multiple areas or anything like that. It's all one system to them. But of course, the goals are a little bit different, right? We're focused on student yield, enrollment, and so we built a module that supports that. And then in addition, and this was always the first part of the first module set that we released, we also have FERPA management. And for many of you, that goes back to that original stat that I had, that parents are logging in as their students. And so, of course, we want to give parents the information they need to support their students, but you also want to protect student privacy. So there's a FERPA management module. And then finally, we're in beta testing with a parent giving module as well. So Brooke Sternick, our VP of product, she is working with about, how many, 6 customers right now on that, which is pretty exciting as well. So when we look at all of this, the parent engagement lifecycle, CampusESP, we put that at the center because we really want to make it seamless for parents to interact with you. We don't want them to go to different silos, different websites. We want to have it all in one place. We want you to have it all in one place. And then we're also going to be providing different visualizations of this. We want to make sure we're just supporting parents from beginning to end. So I know there's some sessions later on where we're going to get more in detail here, but this is kind of our vision for the future when it comes to parent and family engagement. So I know none of that is probably surprising to you. So the question then becomes, how do you get there? Because while there are a bunch of people in this room who are excited about this, you're still trying to convince people how important parent and family engagement is. And it really comes down to relying on the experts. Sorry, Brooke, this is still one of my favorite pictures. She's like mortified right now. So over the last couple years, we've been trying to provide thought leadership, expert advice, a lot of data. The data is so important because it's so obvious when you think about how important parents and families are when you look at the data. But really, it comes down to all of you. You guys have basically given us the ideas about where CampusESP can support parents, where we can help, and really this community has inspired us. So I just want to say, really, as we're kicking things off at the summit, this is amazing to have everybody together in one place. And I just want to say thank you for being here. This is not easy to get out here, not only with everything going on in the world, but also budget cuts, your time. So I wanted to say thank you as we're kicking off the 4th annual summit. And it's great to have you all out here. So thank you so much. All right, so to kick things off, and I actually have to have a card here, and the reason why is because Raquel's title is the longest title I have ever read in my life. Raquel's title is Associate Vice President for Market Research and Planning for Enrollment Management at Ruffalo Noel Levitz. That is the longest title I've ever seen.
I didn't even know that was my title.
It's on your.
It is.
It's on your LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
She's been at R&L for almost 15 years. She has her bachelor's from Universidad de Salamanca.
Correct.
And a doctorate in education. And I have worked with Raquel for 6 years. I want to say 7
I was
years.
your first fan.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that
Yeah.
feels like a little awkward right in front of everybody right now saying that.
I was the first supporter
Yes.
of CampusESP.
I mean, truly, when we started CampusESP, we were just trying to get as much data together as possible because everybody has their crazy, over-involved parent story. But when you really look at the data, it's a no-brainer to focus on parents and families. So Raquel was a big part of that story. I'm really excited to have her here today to take you through some of the most recent data that we have on parent and family engagement. How many parents are part of this survey?
22,000
22,000.
families, and other adults who support college students, currently enrolled college students.
So please welcome Raquel Bermejo to the stage here. She's going to give us a rundown of all the data. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I don't have a clicker, so someone is going to have to help me with oh, great. Okay. So you are the first people to see this. I'm so excited. In fact, CampusESP folks saw it for the first time last week. This report will be out the first or the second week of the new year. So this is sort of like a preview, and we're going to talk about 5 areas that we ask all of these families about. We ask them about communication, we ask about channels, frequency, and also satisfaction with the communication that comes from the institutions, from you. Also, we ask about satisfaction with experiences. And there were a lot of different experiences. Some were related to the students, and some were the families' own experiences. Virtual events that I actually think Dave and I decided to cut this section because we don't have enough time today, so you're going to have to wait to see that for the report. We also ask about a few different perceptions and satisfaction with different aspects of the college financing puzzle. Now remember, these are the families of current students, the students that are in college right now. And finally, we actually ask families, which is a really scary thing to do, we ask them to tell us anything they wanted to tell us about their experience. And I have to tell you, they told us a lot. I think it was about 75% of the families that took the survey actually took the time, after taking a survey that was 12 minutes long, took the time to write things and tell us things. And some of them were awesome, some of them were sad, some of them were exciting. You're going to see some of those things. We divided them, we grouped them in themes for you. So almost 22,000 responses, and these are the demographics. So I want to actually show you that one there, the type of institution. So that 85% doesn't mean that 85% of the institutions were public. You're going to see the names of the institution in a second. Some of you actually may have been, your institutions may have been part of this study. That actually relates to the families that responded. So 85% of the responding families had students enrolled at public institutions, 15 of them at private. Those were the sizes of enrollment. And then as far as the housing, I want you to see it because I'm going to mention these later. So a little bit over the half of them, their students were living on campus housing. 38% of them were living off campus but not at home, and 8% of them were living at home. And the last demographic I wanted to show you was that one up there. So this survey took place in May and June, okay? So when you see graduating class of 2022, that means their students were about to graduate. To me, the fact that 15% of the families actually had students that were about to graduate and they wanted to complete this survey was amazing. I honestly, my daughter is a senior in college this year, and if you survey me in May about my experience in the last 4 years, I don't know that I'm going to give you the time of day. But the fact that they did it meant that they had something to say. So I was extremely thankful to that. And you see 18% 2023, so that means they were finishing their 3rd year of college. They were about to become seniors. 2024, so they were finishing the 2nd year of college. And not surprisingly, the majority of the parents, 39%, had students finishing their 1st year. And let me tell you, they wrote volumes. They had a lot to say. So these are the institutions that participated, and each one of them has received a little summary with their own results. In a couple of weeks, they're actually going to get something similar to what you're going to see here today with a little more detail, so they can compare their own results to the national results. And then in January, all of you can actually go to the RNL website and download the report. So today I'm going to give you a really big overview because we have about 35 minutes. I'm not going to have a lot of time to give you detail on what families were more likely to be satisfied with things, what families were more likely to be satisfied. That all is in the report. But I'm going to mention a few things in general, some things that I saw as I analyzed the data, okay? So let's get started. So we ask parents here on the left, how often they wanted to hear from institutions. Same exact question that we asked the families of the prospective students. And their answers actually are very similar. So look at the preferred frequency. That's the green, yellowy. So 85% are open to hearing from you at least once a week. I think that's like almost exactly the same as the parents and the families of the prospective students, sorry. 14% only once a month, and never, basically just, I rounded up to 1%, but it was even less than that. And here, I'm going to get out of the way so my hair is not in the way. Here you can see the progression. From the first year we asked this question to the families of these students, 65% of them said at least once a week 2 years ago. Last year it was 72%. This year is 85%. What about channels? So what channels do you prefer to hear from the institution where your student is currently enrolled at? So look at the left. Everyone responded to an email. Text message was 44%. Via the parent or family supporting adult, 33%, and the telephone was 3%. And there is one missing here, which is a big miss on my part. Mail, direct mail. So we're adding it next year. I can't believe that we actually missed it 3 years in a row. So it will be there this year. And I want to show you some demographics so you can see the differences on the channels. And due to the lack of time, I can't really dig into everything that I would like to, but I want to show you the text message. So you see what two groups are more likely to prefer text message? What are those? So Black and Hispanic families. What about the telephone? The Black families are more likely to prefer that. And now go to the portal. I thought this was a very interesting one, and this was a little bit different than on the prospective side. So I still have to study this a little bit more, but I think any differences on the portal may not come due to the lack of interest on the part of the family, more about them not knowing the portal is there, not having access to technology to access the portal, and maybe training. They don't know how to use it. And honestly, after reading some of the comments, also sometimes there's a little bit of fear. So this was first generation versus continuing generation. So email basically everyone. Look at text message. I think this is a little cleaner than the breakdown by ethnicity. So first generation families tend to prefer text message, 10% difference, rather than continuing generation family. The portal, exactly the same. Telephone looks like first generation are more likely. And in other, actually, families mentioned direct mail. Income. So look at the text message. So families with incomes lower than $100,000 are more likely to prefer text message. And the opposite with the portal. You see that? But again, I don't think that lower income families are not choosing the portal because they just don't want to or they have a dislike for it. It's either lack of knowledge that it's there or just lack of access to technology. Okay, so I'm going to skip to this section now. I think this is where the really good stuff starts. So satisfaction with communication, and we ask 6 different areas for communication. We started with communication from the institution just in general. How satisfied are you? And you see 76% of the family, so that's 3/4 of them. That's really good. They're satisfied with the communication in general. But now look at the differences once we start looking at different areas of communication. So account services and paying the tuition bill, 68%. Community life and activities, 60%. Financial aid and scholarships, there's a whole section about that, so we're going to pick that one up. Housing, 56%, and food services and dining, 55%. So one difference that I noticed was the families of students living on campus are more likely to be satisfied with communications than those families whose students live off campus or at home. And that seemed to be across almost all areas of satisfaction. Also, families of students attending classes in person are more likely to be satisfied with communication from institutions all across the board. So let's look at the satisfaction with communication the last couple of years and see how that's changed. See that in general, the communication has increased for account services, community life and activities. I don't think it's surprising, especially the community life, because the students are now back on campus. They're going to school in person, they're living on campus or off campus. I was surprised on the financial aid and scholarships, but we're going to pick that up later. Housing, not surprising. They're out of the house, they're attending school in person, so families are ecstatic. And food services and dining, not surprisingly, also more satisfied. Okay, so what about experiences? We ask families, how satisfied are you with your students' general overall experience? And that was really high. That was, I think it was the highest satisfaction of any of the items. And by the way, if you are doing the RNL student satisfaction inventory, these questions are borrowed, they're stolen from them. So you can actually go back and check these against your student satisfaction inventory and see how that compares. The parent satisfaction versus the student satisfaction. I think it's very interesting to see that. Okay, so ability to complete graduation requirement is timely manner, 75%. The group that's most likely to be dissatisfied with this item is the families of the students who are taking classes either hybrid or online. They're not happy. What about the required courses available for registration? 69%, and again the same. Families, and that's important for student success. It's important for student retention, right, and for progression towards graduation. Families of the students whose students are going to school exclusively online or hybrid are way more likely to say they're dissatisfied with the required courses being available. Specifically, a lot of parents actually wrote in the comments if their students were involved or their major was nursing, teaching, whoa. They were not happy. And I imagine as we're coming out of the pandemic, some of those things are going to go back to normal and those courses are going to be available. But in the meantime, remember that communication is super important. So these families were very dissatisfied. And finally, the area that all the families were more likely to be dissatisfied with was the quality of the online instruction. And boy, they gave us an earful about this. It just is not okay. I mean, only 55% of them are satisfied. That's really low. And between the two groups, between the families of the students who were attending classes hybrid versus those who were online, those who were exclusively online were way more dissatisfied. Also, families of students living at home were more likely to be satisfied with this one, the online instruction. Maybe because they're actually seeing what's happening. I have to rely on my daughter. She's taking a class online, but she's all the way in New Orleans, so I don't know. I only know what she tells me. Okay, so 5 more areas of student satisfaction. Family satisfaction with the student's ability to participate in co-curricular activities, 73%. And guess what families are more likely with that area? We're more likely to be satisfied in that area. It's those families whose students are living on campus. Ability to communicate with faculty and staff. Now, that's not the family's ability, that's the student's ability. 72%, that's pretty high, that's 3/4. More likely, students in the first couple of years of school. And those students living on campus and taking classes in person. So there is a theme there. Opportunities, academic advisors, 66%. Same story. Families with the students attending school in person, way more likely to be satisfied with that area. Opportunities for experiential learning, 55%, that was the lowest. And then the student athlete experience, 73% of the families. So there was a question that asked them, do you have a student who participated in intercollegiate athletics? Yes, no, and then they got this one by themselves. So 3/4 of the families of the student athletes were satisfied with that. And in that case, students in the families of the student athletes who were in the first couple of years of school were more likely to be satisfied. I thought that was interesting. But then thinking about it, I thought, well, the families of the student athletes who are in the third and last year of college, they went through the pandemic. And they lost a couple of seasons there. So probably, unless they took an extra year, that probably plays part in that, right? Also, families of student athletes in schools that had an enrollment less than 10,000 students. That was interesting. And a little bit of a comparison here between 21 and 22 for some of these satisfaction items. Not surprised that the satisfaction with required courses is higher this year, right? It's back to normal, almost. Same with the graduation requirements. Look at the satisfaction with the online instruction. And the overall experience, actually, I was a little bit sad to see that in general, the overall experience, the satisfaction has actually decreased. Let's now move on to the satisfaction of the families with their own experience. So 3/4 of them are actually satisfied with the communication that they received during COVID-19. Feeling welcome at campus events, 3/4 of them. That was incredible. Less likely to be satisfied with that, so that means least likely to feel welcome at campus events, were Hispanic families. What about for opportunities for family involvement? 65% of them said they were actually satisfied. And I'm going to mention these later, but 40% of them, remember this is 22,000 families, this is a lot. So 40% of them actually said they would welcome additional opportunities to be involved in the university. And they gave us a blueprint of what things they want to do for you. And they want to do a lot. And some of the things are pretty exciting. Understanding what the plans are, for example, for next fall, that was really low. That's 58%. And that's key. Understanding, is there a tuition increase? Will my student, these are the things they ask us, will my student receive the same financial aid that he or she received last year? Those things were the things that were in their mind. And really sad is the last one. Feeling that your voice is heard and that it counts. Less than half of the families feel that their voice actually is heard at the institution and that it counts for something. Let's move on to college financing. So 3/4 of the families, of course, said that financial aid and scholarships are important to their family's ability to pay for college. 3/4 of them are actually satisfied with whatever tuition they're paying as a worthwhile investment in their students' future. More likely to be satisfied are first-generation families and low-income families. Think about it. So low-income families, first-generation families, are more satisfied with tuition paid as a worthwhile investment in their students' future. I think that's pretty amazing. And finally, 43% of them said paying for college is difficult for them. What about the satisfaction with the level of financial assistance? That's what you see there on the right. So we ask families, is your student receiving any kind of financial aid, any kind of aid that doesn't have to be paid back? And if they said yes, they got that question. So 66% of them are satisfied with that level of financial aid or financial assistance. Now on the right is I think what's interesting about this. So 21% of those families say they don't ever hear from the financial aid office. These are the families of currently enrolled students. And some of their comments were like, we're finishing our first year and we don't know if our student has to reapply for financial aid. But we know we have to fill out the FAFSA, but we don't know what else. And this was May. And the rest of them said the communication they received from the financial aid office was very confusing, and they've had to call more than twice to get answers. 39% of them said it was fairly complete, but they still had questions that they needed to be answered. And only 29% of them said it was complete. More likely to be in that group is continuing generation families and families with incomes higher than $120,000. So I'm just going to let you ponder on that for a second. It's basically a quarter. So a quarter of your families actually understand everything as far as it has to do with the financial aid process. What do we need to do? Do we need to reapply? Do we need to? That's scary. I mean, when you're thinking about retention and student satisfaction and student success, that's just a number that sticks in my mind. Only a quarter of them. And guess what? It's families that actually have a college degree and have higher incomes. So it just seems to me like the families that need it the most are not getting the message. And I'm about to wrap up. So what else do families want? So I told you earlier, 40% of the families said they would welcome opportunities to be more involved. So some of the things they told us, if you have a parent board, does anyone have a parent board here? Oh, a few hands, okay. So you're doing something they want. Parent board. Volunteering for events and activities. Speaking opportunities using the family's skills. So I'm a blueberry farmer and you have an agriculture program. I want to come talk to the students. Opportunities to work with interns from the school. That I was like, oh my gosh, yes. So they want to be able to help you place those students with internships by the hundreds. Meeting prospective parents or local high schools. Oh my gosh, this is like free recruiting tools for you. And this, which I know some of you are going to go, ooh. Specifically, the parents of the students in the first year, they were talking about easing into letting their students become independent and maybe having a process where the first or second semester there was some kind of conference with their academic advisor so they could understand, was the student making progress, what tools were in terms of academic and student support and success, what can they do to help, and also ensuring that the student knew that there were different tools at their disposal to be able to be successful. And I know the faculty are probably like, yeah, no, I don't think so. So some of these things, as you look at them, if you've been in a high school in the last few years, they sound a lot like some of these things are the things that parents are used to and they love doing to be involved in their students' activities and their students' life. And that's it. So I don't think we have a way to ask questions, but I do encourage you to email me, and I will send you a link to download the report, and that's it. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you